episode 10.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, this is Phil.
He's Isaac.
This is Unfiltered Podcast.
That's us.
Hey, it's April. Spring is here.
Sprung.
Fully sprung.
That's right.
And today, we're fully sprung because Brooke's here with us, your sister-in-law
That's right.
from South Dakota.
Brooke Tanya Nelson.
Hello. I appreciate that you put my middle name in there.
Brooke Tanya?
It's
Brooke
out there.
T. Brooke
Yep.
T. Nelson. Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Yep. It rolls off the tongue very nicely.
People often refer to me with
Brooke-
my middle name.
Brooke Tanya?
Yep.
Even non-family members?
No.
No. Just
No.
family members.
Yeah.
Brooke Tanya.
Yes.
You have a lot of cousins,
I do.
like over 70
Yes.
on both sides, or just the...
Just on my mom's side.
And then there's another 20.
There's another 20 on my dad's side. Yes.
Huge family.
It's a big family.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you know all their names?
I do.
What? That's impressive.
Brooke Tanya doesn't mess around.
Wow.
Yeah. This girl comes
Okay,
to play.
I'm intimidated a little bit here.
Brooke
Your
has
capacity.
Brooke has a master's degree.
I do.
Go ahead and say the name. Say the long
Yes.
name.
So I have a master's degree from South Dakota State University in mental health and rehabilitation counseling. So
That's what she does. Yeah.
that's what I do.
That's what she does.
Yeah. I
How long have you been doing that?
It'll be 3 years in May that I graduated with my master's. So I went to SDSU for my bachelor's, and then I just continued on. I had actually really no plans to continue on to graduate school, but it was my senior year, and one of my professors approached me, and they were like, hey, I think you'd be a good fit for this program, and I think you should apply. And I was like, really? You know? Because in my mind, I just wanted to graduate, be done, go get a job, you know? But I definitely felt like pulled in this direction. I definitely felt the Lord's leading in it, and his favor was just upon me the whole time, like open doors. They wanted to pay for my schooling because there was a grant available. So I just felt like that, it just like, I continued to say yes, and I kept walking through, and it was just a really good growing experience. I think I enjoyed graduate school more than I did my bachelor's.
Wow.
It's just different. I think, I don't know. I feel like the professors are more invested in your growth, not just as a student, but professionally, personally. And I appreciated like the one-on-one in graduate school. So
Very cool.
yeah.
What were you planning to do with your undergrad degree when you thought I will just graduate and get out here? What was
Yeah.
your plan at that point?
So I have my undergrad degree in psychology with a minor in human development. And I think as a senior, I was feeling, I definitely felt kind of lost and like, okay, what do I do with this degree? And I had heard it might be best to like pursue a master's, but I was like, maybe I'll go into social services. In my mind, I was like, get a job, get married, have kids, be a mom. Like that was my expectation for my future. And then I just felt the Lord like, I want you to go this way. And I'm so glad I did, because I feel like my just my career, my dreams have all kind of unfolded as I've, gone through life, as I've gone through just your professional development. And so now I work in the disability field, which I absolutely love, and that definitely grew from my experience in college. In college, I worked as a direct support professional for individuals with an intellectual and developmental disability. And that was my first experience working in the disability field. And I'll never forget like the day that I knew that I wanted to commit my life to working with this population. I had taken one of the young ladies that I was supporting to a local arts festival, and there was a band and live band, and she just broke out in free dance and was just like having the time of her life. Like she didn't care that people were watching her, possibly judging her, and like the freedom that I saw in her, I was like, I want to be like her, Like I would never do that because I would be afraid of like what people thought, but she didn't have any barriers, and I just like felt God's presence in that moment and just knew like this is what I was to pursue. So
That's awesome.
That is awesome. You like answered all my follow-up
Oh.
questions. Like
Boom.
you're talking, I'm like writing down like I want to ask this, and then you answered it right.
You even
there.
got it scribbled out,
I
that
did.
whole question.
Like, nope,
Just
never
like,
mind.
Nope, got it. Done.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Man, what an awesome story.
100%.
Testimony.
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm already proud of you as a brother-in-law. Like, it just, like, you rolled in, what, 1 or 2 o'clock today? You were out doing stuff. Then you rolled in, and we're all down here, and it's like, Brooke, let's go right now. And then you're here, and then you're just dropping in. So it's like, yeah, it's cool. It's a cool experience. Thanks for sharing that alone with us. It's just like you had a moment, and it confirmed the call, which is something that I think we're both would talk for days about.
Yep.
Is the call itself. Like, you answered the call that was given to your life, like a God-ordained mission. And then you had a moment that was confirmed the call, which I feel like always happens, but we miss so often because we're not listening for it or watching for it. Yeah.
Or we take it for granted.
Yeah.
Compare it to someone else's. Like, oh, mine wasn't a big deal because
Right.
it was just this little thing. Makes me think of like at summer camps we would go to, we'd have guest ministers in and stuff. And like at times they would like have, a word for somebody where they would like share something that they believed God was like giving them to share with someone. And I never got one of those.
Yeah.
And yet here I am like believing that I'm called to be a pastor someday. And I was like, well, mine must not be legit because what is being confirmed in me is not this big spectacle thing that I see in someone else. So what's up with that? But I love that for you. It just like was confirmed in that moment. Were there other moments like that too along the way that just like solidified that this is right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been moments, but based on like what you guys were saying in terms of like hearing that calling, I definitely think like obviously the Lord, I think, speaks to us all in different ways, and having like the ears and the heart to listen and to like pick up on like those small nudges, like that's been my prayer in my life. Okay, Holy Spirit, like I don't want to miss what you're saying in my life. And I think like the past like 3 years, like the Lord has definitely confirmed that in my spirit. But it's not without like its challenges. I think back to, I was finishing my internship actually in a town nearby. And
Are you going to name the town nearby? Call it what we call it.
Carol. And that it was to assist people with disabilities to find employment. And that was kind of the basis of like my master's degree. That was definitely the push that I was kind of receiving. And in that internship, like that scared me because I was like, I don't want to do this. And that was a really rough part of that internship was rough. Not like the internship was great in itself, but that was the first time that I was removed from like being around family constantly, not having any friends, not knowing anyone, just being in a random city that I didn't know anything about.
Next to the train tracks.
Next to the train tracks, yes. My apartment was next to the train tracks. And obviously like Philip and Bridget were, a half hour away, which was nice. But I think God takes those seasons in your life when things are kind of stripped away, so to speak. Like you don't have the things that make you feel safe and comfortable. And I definitely felt like I was just like, the Lord was just like peeling back layers of my heart. And I was like doubting like what I was going into for a career. I felt vulnerable. And he used like that exposure to like really work on my heart, really kind of transform just my way of thinking, my heart posture, and kind of reconfirmed in all of that. Like, I have you where I want you. Like, will you trust me in that? And like, trust is something that I'm still learning, in terms of like trusting the Lord's plan for our lives. But it's like I wouldn't trade those hard times for anything, because it's brought me closer, to the Father's heart. And I feel more grounded in who I am in God. And with that, I feel more grounded in what I do for a living,
Sure.
you know, because it all works together in tandem, so to speak. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
Just, it makes me wonder for you, like, do you feel like the call to doing what you're doing now is something like that was always there, or did there come a time where like you made a change in your, posture towards the Lord and like willingness, and like, was there a time where you like gave up a plan that you had? I feel like you said that earlier a little bit about like bachelor school, and then opportunity came to go to grad school. Was there like a moment of switch that you recognized where it was like, okay, well, maybe I had thought I would do this, but I see very clearly that this is what you're pulling me to. And so like, not my will, but yours be done.
Right. A little bit, but I feel like, I don't know, the Lord's so kind to me, because like he definitely like is gentle in terms of like, nudging me into directions. And like, I've always had a heart for people. Like I've always known that about myself. Like I love being like one-on-one with someone and talking with them. But I just didn't know what that looked like, like I didn't know what to pursue. And I didn't always like want to work in the disability field, to be honest. Like I wasn't even really aware that those jobs existed, into college. But yeah, I think like it's just, for me, it's been just such a gentle, gradual process that the Lord has continued to lead me. And like, I know in my heart that I think I will always work in this field in some capacity, maybe not what I'm doing right now. But I feel so strongly and about it. And I always want to work with people with disabilities. Like it's just, it feels, what else would I do?
I feel that too
So do I.
with your like career choice right now.
Yeah, like with where I'm at.
Yeah. What else am I going to do? This is it.
Yeah.
Same. Is it exhausting
Yeah.
mentally and physically?
Yeah. I mean, what really energizes me is having the opportunity to meet with people in person and work with them. But due to COVID, a lot of our providers have, closed their doors. So we've had to transition to Zoom. So my life kind of consists of meeting people via Zoom.
Right.
Which is fine, but it's not what I prefer. But we've all kind of adapted to it. But yeah, I mean, part of my role is we support individuals with developmental disabilities who may have some escalating behaviors. And so I'm part of a team that works with that individual and their team to kind of figure out what's going on. So we look at behavior through mental health lens. We look at it through the medical lens, disability, and environment, because all those factors, I mean, when we see a behavior, there's so much that goes into that behavior, like figuring out the underlying cause of that. And so, yeah, I'm part of a team that figures out what's going on and then figures out ways that we can support that individual and the staff that support them on a regular basis. So there's a lot to consider, when we dive into that. And yeah, it can definitely be challenging. There's definitely roadblocks. There's definitely days where it's just not working. We have success stories. We don't have success stories. And yeah, you can feel burnout quickly. But I think that's when you have to really remember your why on those days.
She's good. Yeah. Because not every day, even though are you laughing at me? Even though you're in your calling or in your passion, not every day ends with cupcakes and rainbows and butterflies. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is real life to me. And I constantly tell this to people at the office is you are never going to be able to avoid stress in life. It is inevitable. It is ubiquitous, meaning it is everywhere all the time forever. You just have to learn how to handle it where you are. That's it. Like, end of story. You can either try to lower your stress level, which you should, but it's never going away. But really, you should increase your body's ability to handle stress. So I just feel like, as people are listening to this, or you go on Instagram and you see someone's highlight reel and how great their life is or how fit they are, it's like they've been grinding for years to make it this way. So here you are in your calling, still grinding it out, still feeling the stress, even though you've answered your call, it's not all perfect.
No.
Yes. Nor should it be.
Right.
Because then you wouldn't have the same experiences that kind of continue to mold who you are, right? You got wheels turning.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, turn them.
Well, I mean, from like a spiritual standpoint, I think about like stress, anxiety, care, worry, like that kind of thing, burdens, weights, pressures of life. And I think about what Christ said, to cast them upon him, for he cares for us. And so I think there is an element of truth in like learning how to deal with things. But I think one of the ways like I deal with things is by putting them on him, looking at it through the perspective or through the lens of who I am in Christ. That is one of the key things that helps me. And I'm sure we could go around the table and we'd all agree with that.
Right.
But
that's something you choose to do.
Yeah. And
and it's not, you weren't able to avoid the stress.
Right.
The stress was still there.
Yeah.
But then how you chose to deal with it.
Yeah. Which
exactly.
Just, I guess I clarify that for the point of, when I'm talking about I deal with stress this way, like I can put the emphasis on what I'm doing rather than on, like in this case, what he's already done. And that's why I can give it up. So, I mean, that is something I could probably just preach about for the whole time, but I won't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so many ways like you can take care of your own, like when we're talking about mental health. We all have mental health, and that's important. And like spiritual aspect is, I've noticed that too. Like when my gaze isn't fixed on Jesus, I handle stress so differently. I handle little things that just like pop up.
Yeah.
And it worries me, it consumes me. But when I am mindful and just, especially taking time like in the morning before you go to work, before the routine starts, is fixating your heart, your gaze on Jesus, like that does wonders. But then like you can also like look at your physical health, your emotional health, like it all goes into having, strong mental health on a daily basis. And for me, like I think the past like few years, like I've really focused on just like my physical health. It's always like in college, it just wasn't, I don't know what I was doing, and the past few years, like that's definitely like changed based on like who I've like surrounded myself with and the people that have influenced me in terms of like what I eat, how I exercise. Like when I think of like who has influenced me the most in terms of like my physical health, like it's definitely Bridget and Philip. Like, yes. Yeah.
Probably the same for me.
Hey.
Yeah, because you start, like, when you grow up in a big family, like, yes, like, my parents encouraged, exercise, health, but, like, there's something to be said of, like, when you transition into adulthood and you start making things your own, like, that's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process to make your faith your own, especially when you grow up in a Christian home. Like, what does this mean to me? Yeah. Same with, like, physical health, exercising, not doing it for certain reasons, but doing it because of something, because you want to be the best version of yourself, or because you're being mindful of like what you're putting in your body. And that has all really shifted just like how I handle stress. Like I've noticed that the past like 2 years, I think, is things that used to like consume me or weigh me down. Like it doesn't have that effect anymore. Like, yes, like you experience those days, but it doesn't have like that grip. So
it's awesome.
Because you've learned to cast it off.
You've learned to cast it. I
think. To wear it all day long. Yeah.
Yep.
And like you mentioned, the physical aspect, like you're doing things that put less physical stress on your body, which probably contributes to the way you handle it in other areas. I do not have like, now I do not have education in the mental health field, so I have no idea if this is on base, but the way I'm picturing it as like you're talking is there's like a total sum of all the stresses in your life, and if it all gets to a certain point, like that's when bad things start to happen. Yeah. So it's like I'm gonna try to take care of myself physically, so I'm not putting more bad in the bucket.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try to take care of my relationships, so I'm not putting more bad in the bucket. And
right. Because when we think of mental health, like we think the impact it has on our mood, our thinking, and our behavior. So then when you take those three, and figure out like, okay, what influences my mood? What are my thought patterns? Like, what are my behaviors? And like, I mean, there's so many things that can come down from those three things, like in my own life, you know, like mood, like how I respond to people or what impacts my mood. Like what has the power to impact my mood? And then you realize like these little petty things do. So then like, okay, what's in my heart, you know, or my thought patterns, like how I view myself or how I view other people. Like that relates to, again, like what is in my heart. And then like, am I thinking like the truth that God says over me, over my friends, over my family? And then my behavior, you know, how am I treating other people? How am I living out my day to day? How are my choices impacting my behavior? Like that all influences your mental health. So I get very passionate about that. But then also like, you know, supporting people with developmental disabilities, in terms of like their mental health. Oftentimes like due to the disability, they may have a more difficult time expressing like their emotions or identifying like what they're feeling. They might not have the language to give voice to that. So that's a large part of what we try to do is to really equip them, empower them to express themselves. So
one of the things that makes me kind of wonder is if people who have some of that difficulty maybe expressing or suppressing that are just externally acting on what a lot of people feel internally anyways.
yes, exactly.
Like if you're just seeing on the outside what most people feel on the inside but never do anything about, and so that they just end up stressed out in some other way.
Yep, that's what we see. So individuals who have a mental illness along with a developmental disability, because of that exact reason, that manifests itself into a behavior oftentimes. So that's the fun part of my job is like I get to investigate and like figure out like okay, what is going on, like what could be a potential cause of this, because there's always a cause of a behavior. So that really excites me. And then, you know, involving like the medical side of it, like our health, our physical health, our hormones, like it all impacts our moods, our thoughts, our behaviors. So yeah, I love what I do.
So it just makes me think like you probably things that you do in figuring out why people that don't have that ability to maybe suppress or like control the expression that they're feeling, like helping them. I imagine you could help anybody that doesn't have that same disability, because I think people feel the same frustrations. I mean, when somebody cuts you off in traffic, whether you express it by shaking your fist or yelling, or you just like tweet about it, I mean, you're frustrated.
Yeah.
And so I bet like rolling back the layers to figure out why the frustration or the problem is there would be across the board.
Oh yeah. And oftentimes like thinking of like the behavior and thinking of like what happened before the behavior, like what is going on in their day to day, because our interactions with people, the environment that we're in, maybe they have a stressful roommate, maybe something just triggered them, and then it all just unfolds. And then equipping them with some coping strategies of when you do start to feel that, or when that does happen, what are some healthy ways to deal with that versus the behavior that we're seeing. So that's part of the process as well.
Do you have a case in mind or something you can share with us without breaking HIPAA? Just like a behavioral sign that it's like, oh, well, this behavior meant X, Y, Z.
Yeah, that would excite you, Mr. Chiropractor.
Yeah, let's get a case study going on in here.
Hey, I know why you're looking like that.
Right.
Yeah, there's several that we're currently working on. But for example, like we had one individual who his behaviors were he would often just lay in his apartment, not moving, not wanting to do anything, not wanting to eat, not wanting to interact. And so I was, obviously concerned for just his overall health. But it was obviously a behavior, like what is he getting out of this behavior, or what's the cause? He did have some mental illness diagnoses, but I had gone on site and like met with the staff, met with him. He didn't want to talk to me, and he had suffered from a traumatic brain injury when he was younger. And, based on like what I observed, the people that supported him were not, their interactions with him were to prompt him to do something. So he didn't have any meaningful relationships in his life. And that was the part that I was like, okay, we should focus on this, because right now he doesn't trust anyone. So why would he want to do anything that they're suggesting for him to do? So we really worked with the staff on building trust and rapport with him. So like interacting with him, figuring out like what interests him, like what does he love to do? How can we create meaningful experiences for him so he feels like there's meaning to his life, And so we implemented a few strategies that the staff started to use with him to really build that trust and rapport. He started dressing, he started eating, he started wanting to participate in activities because I truly think like he felt support from around him. And like, because if you can imagine, like, what if we were in that environment?
Yeah.
And people were telling us what to do and all of that, and we didn't feel like we had friends or anybody close that we trusted. I would feel terrible.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get out of bed either.
Yeah, me either. It would be hard to find meaning. So just things like that really can just impact a person's life, is pouring in like meaningful support into that man's life. And so he's doing really well now. He's participating in his community, doing things that he enjoys doing, and he's healthy. So that's just like an example of something, that we worked with him and the staff.
So cool. Yeah.
Getting a why will change your life.
Getting a why.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, just purpose for your day to day. Something to pull you out of bed in the morning. Yeah.
Yep.
You mentioned some areas earlier regarding like overall mental health. Would you say those again?
Yes. Mood, thinking, and behavior.
As we furiously write notes.
Yes.
Trying to study and understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what you were saying in terms of like having that purpose to like get out of bed, having that meaning, that's a large part of like what I am passionate about in terms of like the disability field, because when we look at the history of those with disabilities, like it hasn't been great. When we look back like the late 1800s into 1900s, people were often sent to institutions to hide away. Family members were ashamed that they would have a child with a disability. And it wasn't until really the 1970s that we started moving into more of that independent living. So them being in their community with their family, having integrated supports, so supports that are not just eligibility specific. So when we think of integrated supports, we think of technology, like how can technology support them to have a more independent life, whether that's having iPad, having a MedMinder where they can take medication on their own, but still have that support. Like what's their relationships, and not just like relationships with someone that supports them 24/7, but what are their relationships in their community, their family, their friends. We look at community-based supports. So who in their community, whether it's their church or any other type of organization that can support them. So really figuring out ways that how can we empower them, support them, reach their vision of a good life. And that's a continual effort that we are committed to. So it's exciting to be a part of that. And it's exciting to continue to be creative and figure out ways to support them in their community of choice. So,
which are things that everyone needs.
Yeah.
Basic things that people need.
Yep.
They need to feel support. They need to have relationships with community, family, friends, things like that. And so, like, you're at ground zero. creating this foundation for someone who has none and maybe doesn't have the perfect ability to just go out and make it on their own, you know? Like, yeah. When you talk about like hierarchies of needs,
Maslow, yes.
Hierarchy of needs. Do you agree with that? Whereas the peak of that is a need for self-actualization, right? I heard somewhere, it was on his deathbed, I heard this story. Are you familiar with this?
Not the story, no.
He almost I'm 90% sure this is legit. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt. But this guy with a friend on his deathbed renounced his hierarchy, or moreover said that the highest need, or the thing he had the most regret for, was not having more community support, not putting more effort into relationships. And instead his self-actualization was personal, inward, possible egoic or selfish. And that was the, you know, to feel important, to feel valued, to feel that you're worth something, which is good, but that's not the end. That's not necessarily the top. So here it's like, I see that as the top, like the need to have community, the need to confirm someone else and not just be confirmed. That's almost more important than self.
Yeah, I would say like in terms of like being involved in your community, having meaningful relationships, like that brings value to your life, you know?
Right. Which so happens to be you putting someone else first.
Right.
Confirms you.
Love.
There's a nice word.
There we go.
I enjoy that word. Love spells love. Love.
That's what we're talking about.
Because love is selfless.
Putting others first for care, for, you know, I think that what we're talking about is love, and people can think love is all about what I'm feeling on the inside, but you're going to be more blessed when you give.
Give love.
Yeah. And if you don't have an avenue to do that, how do you interact in a loving relationship?
Like a whole part of your soul is just blocked.
Right.
How do you express positive mood, thoughts, behaviors if love has no avenue?
Right.
Have you ever, is your field, has anybody ever put it like that? Like, hey, we're teaching or establishing a layer of love.
This is the first time I've heard it in that phrase, but yeah, I mean, that's essentially, it reminds me of, I think it's in Romans 12, but it's in the Message version. I think it says like love from the center of who you are and be content playing second fiddle. So essentially like be content letting someone else like go before you. And like, that's love, like, you know, not being jealous over that, but giving and having that reciprocated, like that's huge. And I think should honestly be the top of Maslow's hierarchy.
Is that.
Yeah, that
love.
Selfless love.
Selfless love.
Reminds me of a Toby Mac song, Made to Love.
I was made to love you.
Yes.
I was made just for you.
Thank you.
Made to adore you.
Oh yeah, I went to Winter Jam. That's for darn sure. Yeah. I burned for you.
Do you want me to find this on?
Kind of. If you could play a little clip, dude, at any point in time,
any point.
it is okay if you just want to drop
Just
a random
give us some
Toby Mac
Toby Mac.
song. 100% fine.
More
with
Toby
that.
Mac in this
Or-
podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Boy,
We're going to go to our
this is-
third camera here
That
for
is
this so I
hilarious.
can actually take care of it.
What's up, Birdseye? This is
So
good.
funny.
Hopefully it's holding on there.
Yeah.
Man, you had a little T-Mac stage, right? Toby Mac, or did that not really help the
Rebecca
Nelson?
St. James.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And Sean McDonald.
Yeah.
Those were
Yep.
the two first
Okay.
concerts
for sure.
I went to.
Nice.
Big sister Erin, I'm pretty sure, had a Sean McDonald phase. Yeah.
It was epic. Bridget and I would get Rebecca St. James CDs and just like blare it in our bedroom.
Oh my.
Yeah, we did the same thing with Barlow Girls at my
Oh
house.
yeah, Barlow
Yes.
Girls. Yes.
Barlow Girls,
That was-
Super Chick, Jump
Yep.
5.
Any early 2000s Christians are gonna
Right.
nerd out over that right there. Man. Well, boy, love is such a deep topic. I mean, we could talk about that for days. You could preach about it for days, but there's even like, there it is.
That's Made to Love, everybody.
Made to Love
That
by
super well.
Toby Mac.
Kind of starts
Coming
on like
on.
low key.
It does.
I could see you playing this on the bass.
Yeah, probably. Nope. I don't know the words. Never mind. Thought it was, but I still believe. That's coming.
Too good. I don't know. You guys should
coming.
look up this song.
I was making love.
Yeah.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah. Classic. Anyway, that was a good rabbit trail. First time
It
we've ever
was.
played a song on the
Yeah.
podcast. That was it.
That was nice.
Loved
That
it.
was nice.
I like
We'll
that.
do it again. Good job, Lindsay.
Thanks.
Way to go.
Yeah.
Do my best.
What else?
What else?
I just want to toss it back to you and just let you talk. Let you tell the world what's
It's all
Good-
been
good
so
and
good
worthy.
so far.
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
are you familiar with the 12 steps in terms of like an addiction?
I'm familiar in it, but I'm not trained in it, so I don't think I could
Sure.
speak on that.
Speak on it.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a total other side of
Yes.
mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And
It is.
there's a chiropractor who deals with, he has developed a theory and a method
Mm-hmm.
to help treat addiction and addictionology, just the study of that. And it's wild. It's wild. I
Really?
won't even go to the techniques. Yeah. But it's like a manual therapy. It's not necessarily like a counseling session. It's a
Mhm.
manual therapy that he performs on people with using frequencies and tones and auricular therapy and things like that. And, he talks about five main addictions that people have, and I couldn't even name them all, but like food,
Mm-hmm.
sex, gambling. I don't know if like drugs is one on its own or if substance abuse is one on its own that's roped in, but he talks about how very rarely will you find people who don't have at least one. That almost anyone at any given time is defaulted towards one, and unless you've handled that or like tried to come out of that, you're in one, which is kind of a wild thought. Which that's just his theory. I'm not saying that's the way it is. I don't see one in you, by the way. As far as I'm sure, if you looked real hard, you could probably see some tendencies, some behavior. But
I think that's fascinating because, like, I think we live, in a world where anybody could easily become addicted to anything, whether it's food, whether, gosh, it's your phone, social media.
oh yeah,
Anything like that we kind of hold in an idle position, in terms in terms of like social media, it's like, you have Facebook, Instagram, there's so many outlets and you can easily catch yourself just like scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what am I looking at? Like, how am I spending my time? And like, it becomes like I would say an addiction really fast. Cause like, that's the first thing like someone could reach for, like in the morning when their alarm goes off is like, I need to look at my phone, I think sometimes like depending on like your posture of your heart, like working out can become an idol, in terms of like wanting to look a certain way. So it's just like, yeah, it gets kind of muddy because we really have to be careful in what we're putting, our thoughts into in terms of like what we interact with on a daily basis. So
what do you think it's doing? What do you think a phone is doing as you scroll, or like first thing in the morning, last thing you do at night? What is it doing to your heart or to your mind?
I think it can really impact your attention span. Because like you're
100%.
100%, because like you're wanting to like that quick like gratification of like looking at something or getting something, and so when you pick up a book, it's like, oh, okay, this is slow,
Yeah.
So like, what is that doing to the next generation in terms of like we see really young kids like having iPads and phones, whereas like when I grew up, it was a time where like have a book, have a coloring book, something to entertain,
Right.
Go outside and play.
Go outside and play. Be creative.
Yeah,
Go play with your tractor.
I'm all about it.
Light a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the fires, that's dangerous.
Things Isaac does as adult. It's awesome.
So
I think it's a huge distraction.
Yeah.
I mean, in every sense of the word. I mean, I think it, like you said, it shortens attention span because you're distracted easily and often. I think spiritually, I mean, we've talked a lot about that in this episode. I mean, I think it's a distraction. It's noise. It's something that takes your heart off of God and onto the world and everything going on around you. I mean, I'll even say like the things that we get invested in on media and on the internet are a distraction from everyday life. Because I mean, and I'm guilty of it. I've taken up the cause that I've found on the internet that has absolutely nothing to do with me and has no like relevance on my immediate life or anything that is going on with what I'm living in right here in Jefferson, Iowa. But I can get all fired up about it and spend a whole lot of time and a whole lot of effort and burn a whole lot of bridges because I'm distracted from living in right now here where I am because I'm distracted with what's going on in a larger scope. You know, it's a great tool. It's got great, you know, opportunity, I think, in technology, but it has to be handled responsibly. And I think it's a distraction in a lot of ways.
So how do you handle that, Isaac?
How do I handle it? Well, I deleted some apps on my phone, and that helped a little bit. I just leave my phone places sometimes where I'm not. Like last night when I was doing all the yard stuff I was telling you about earlier, it was in my jacket pocket, and my jacket ended up like laying next to a tree I cut down for like 3 hours. So I like just didn't even have it with me. At work, like I'll just set it away from my reach and then turn it on silent. Like my phone's almost always on silent. So I don't know. There's just, you gotta take steps to insulate yourself. I like the screen time feature on iOS devices because it always like surprises me how much time I spend online, and I'm like, oh, that's not good, you know. And just self-evaluation is another thing that I do. Like I think about, okay, what did I do today? Or what did I do this week? How many movies did I watch this week? How much TV? You know, there was a time where I liked to watch series like when Parks and Rec and The Office and some of those were on Netflix. Like I could sit down and watch hours in a night, but then I got convicted. I felt corrected about it. I'm like, I'm wasting so much time on nothing. This is not productive. It's not good. So
I think you can miss out on so much life. Like, you could miss out on, I don't know, going for a walk and seeing a sunset and like seeing God's creation, or you could miss out on a conversation with your mom or dad,
no doubt.
You know, and like, how much time am I using? Like, am I on my phone and like, it's just in front of me and I'm missing out on what's going on around me. And it's convicting to me. I mean, gosh. Now I'm like thinking like, okay, how should I deal with this?
Oh no.
Like I need to lower my screen time.
For me, like, because I've got a purpose that's greater than just like spending time aimlessly, seeing how much time I accidentally or unintentionally waste, like, I mean, it lights a fire under me to make some changes. The first time that happened to me was actually, I used to play Xbox. I don't really so much now, but like there was a phase of some Xbox gaming, and I was like going through my profile one day, and I found the page that tells you how long you've spent playing like every game that's on there, and I started going through those, and I'm like, days of my life, like weeks. Oh my goodness! Like delete, like. I mean, I put the Xbox in a different room for like a month. I'm like, I have to get away from this. I'm wasting my life on nothing. And there's like nothing to show. Like what? Oh, my kill death ratio is so good. Stupid. Sorry. Like it is. It's not worth much. So I'm just ranting. Sorry.
Rant away.
Yeah, it's a safe space here.
Let's isolate that clip and throw it online. It's how to take control of your life again, how to increase your attention span.
Yeah, have something worth living for.
Have something worth living for. Yep. How to drag yourself out of bed with energy in the morning versus being, dead and exhausted all the hours of the day because purpose doesn't course through your veins, which none of these are easy things.
No.
I mean,
worth it.
They are worth it. And at some point, I think what we're all asking ourselves is, because we've been striving to try to get to how-tos, is you have to sit and self-evaluate like you did. You look through the account of where you'd spent your time. If you don't like it, you have an opportunity to change it. And
it's true.
Everything is opportunity. I was talking with someone at the office, and they have had a heck of a 2021 to the start. Like, we don't need to go into specifics, but it's just like, if you think about 2020 and what it entailed and the negativity, 2021 was worse for them.
Ooh.
And, me and my attempt to just try to say something worthwhile, I said, at the end of the day, everything is opportunity. And there's a chance here just to react to this in a positive way so that it sets you up for success later. I know it's not going your way right now, but you have a chance here. You can drown in it or make something out of it. I mean, you have to choose that, or else life will consume you, because life is, it's not easy. It's not your friend.
Disappointment will happen. Like, how do we handle disappointment? Because disappointment can lead to that can lead to anger, that can lead to bitterness, like that can lead to isolation, like all the things that can get icky really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep seeing this post on social media about choosing your hard. It's like staying married is hard, but so is divorce. Getting fit is hard, but so is being fat. Like, choose your hard.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that a lot.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think we've talked before about like the price you pay. Like, you're always going to pay either now or later. Like,
Right.
I mean, you know, it's like eating. I can eat healthy now and not enjoy the delicious Edo family, or I can pay later when I have to go work it off, or, you know, literally pay to get some medical or other resolutions to these problems. I mean, and relationships are the same way. It's like I can pay up, I can apologize now even though I don't like it, or I can pay later when I'm sleeping in the garage.
Yeah.
Or other, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not married.
The
yet.
garage. Usually it's couch, but
Couch. Yeah.
Just goes to show, I mean, everything's on a spectrum. Everything is either producing or consuming. Everything is either a deposit or a withdrawal from you, and you get to pick.
Right. And I think in terms of like handling, you know, when life throws that stuff at you, is like handling our expectations of like what we think God should do about the situation. And like I think that's a rut that anyone can get into, is like handling our expectations of how we think God should respond. Because when we have that expectation, like that only leads to more disappointment, because it's like, oh God, like I had this expectation of what I thought you were going to do or how this situation was going to play out, and that is not what I'm living right now. So I think it's often easy to get caught up in our expectations of what God can do rather than his character, you know? Like, okay, if we have those expectations of God that are my own expectations, like, do I really know like his character then? Like, do I really trust his character? So that's kind of where I'm at right now, honestly.
Is releasing your own thought pattern and choices from expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
And replacing it with what?
Getting to know, like, who is Jesus? And like trusting like his goodness. Because I think like that's a term that is easily thrown around. Like, he has a plan, trust it, you know? But okay, what does it mean? What does that look like for me to like trust that process and like trust his plan for my life? And like, in the reality is like, it's the safest place to be. And like, there was a point, it's like, I want to feel safe in that. I don't want to like fight it. Like, I don't want to fight. Okay, God, this isn't what I thought it was going to look like, or, you know, like this is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Can you answer it this way? You know? And that doesn't happen, but like he works all things out for good, and like getting to know that good and like trusting that his version of good versus my own.
That's a key phrase. His version of good versus our expectations of good. It's different.
Yes.
It's different. I feel like you have to have a quarter to.
What I would say about it is like, I do think we need to have expectations, because he wrote to us, I believe, what those are supposed to be. I think it's like you said, the problem is when our expectations are based on what we want rather than what he's said.
Yep.
That's when we're going to be disappointed. If it's based on the word, then stand on it, put your faith in it.
Yep. Like our hearts should be expectant of like
him to be faithful to his word.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. But when it deviates, and we have our own little agenda over
Which
here.
isn't a hard thing to
No, it
get
can
off
easily,
onto.
Yeah, it can easily happen. That's where,
That comes back to self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, and having time in the Word
yes.
to look at what it says and how do my expectations or hopes stack up against the hope that I'm to have in Christ
Yes.
and what he's written to me in the Word.
And key word there. This actually goes back to a conversation I had with your cousin Isaiah Crevier, who was a best man at my wedding, and he talked about this was in a marriage
Context.
context. Thank you. That's the word. Lost it for a second. In a marriage context, which really represents a man, God the Father relationship, whereas he talked about releasing his expectations from his wife and replacing it with a hope or a desire. And you just threw that hope word around, is like, should we have expectations? Yes, as long as they're his and not mine, based on what I think should happen, but then replacing my false expectations with a hope and a desire, something that will turn into goodness in the future.
And it's a process. Like, it's not, it's a process to trust
It's a
the goodness
process.
for the
Mhm.
future,
Mhm. Yep.
And like that can be tough too, because you want like immediate.
I want it to be
I want it
all
to be
the way
now
good
and
right now.
Like I want it to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to hurt at all,
Right.
or pay any price.
which is a quote from, I'm going to say it again. It's from Wild at Heart. There's a quote. Yeah.
You love that book.
I do love that book. Right at the beginning of the second chapter, there's a quote, and it's by C.S. Lewis, and it goes, "Safe? ? Of course he isn't safe." And he being Jesus, like, of course he's not safe.
Yeah.
Like, he died on the cross. It was a bloody death. Like, being around Jesus was not safe. The amount of times they almost got killed, captured, stabbed, judged, many. And they were delivered from that for several times until the cross happened. Of course, he's not safe. This on Easter weekend, of course, is even fitting. Like, but he's not safe, but he's good. And so that process of relinquishing yourself and your expectations and then replacing those with his, like, it hurts. It's good. You strip all these layers and all these, false self that you've put on in order to deal with things that you're not happy with. And as you get close to God, you strip all those away, and it's better for you. But it's getting there it takes what it takes. Look, tag.
I would say
Tag.
tag. I'd say like about that, it's safe, for example, the environment in which he worked was not safe, but the disciples were always safe with him. And so it's like recognizing that it almost feels like living in a paradox of I'm in this position that feels so much the opposite of what it is, but because of him, I know that I am what he says I am.
Sure.
Not I am what I see around me.
Yes.
Not the storm that I'm in right now. No, I have faith that because I'm with him, I'm protected.
Right.
So
Amen.
it's not just like,
Well,
no, it's not safe at all. No, it is safe, but it's not because
your
he's
physical-
living. Yeah.
Your physical. Now, are you talking about physical safeness, or are you talking about like your identity safeness? Because like,
I mean, we could talk about either of them. I mean,
right.
I'm
Until
just,
your identity is with him,
yeah.
your identity that you've put on to try to compensate for what you're lacking or missing or feeling or emotionally disturbed by is not safe, because he will strip that from you in attempt to get to the real you. That's what I mean. I mean.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So your physical safety.
If you're trusted in yourself, you're not safe. Because
Yes.
you on your own are
Correct.
not enough,
Correct. Yes.
is what I would say.
I recently watched The Passion of Christ again.
Mm.
That's just it's always like something that like I watch it like around Resurrection Sunday. And this time like I really reflected on Jesus's time in the garden before Judas betrayed him, and like the anguish that he went through, and like to see like his humanity like come out, because like it's like, well, Jesus was God, so maybe I don't know, like what did he feel, but like to see his struggle and like his plea like to the Father, like, if there's any other way, could that happen? And like, but he submitted like under God, and like it didn't feel good, obviously, like that struggle and like what he went through for us, like it just like, it hits me, you know, like he said yes.
Yeah.
Like he said yes to being safe, like trusting, even though his environment was not, he was safe, like in his obedience to God. And like that to me, that is like so powerful and just so sobering, you know, like again, like just reflecting, like he chooses us, like he chose me, you guys, you know, like I could just sit in that, you know, like that. It's almost like I don't even know how to process it sometimes. Like
Love without limit.
Yeah, it's powerful.
It is powerful. Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter as we
Resurrection
Yeah.
Day.
That's right. That's right. Because love without limit is not our human default, I would say, right? Like that's something we are striving for. It's something we're continually like working towards, you know. And even the secular world, just society recognizes the value of love, especially in a time of COVID-19, you know, there's a push for community and to try to make sure everyone's okay. I think it's authentic, you know, but the source of love is God.
Yeah.
Jesus, what Jesus did for us. And
There's a quote, I think John Bevere said it, of how like in the world we are, it's easy to throw around like love is God, but that means the world's version of love, like they're fitting that into the box of like, well then that's God's love. It should be God is love, because God is a foundation, and from that will flow the truth of love, not the world's foundation of love is God.
Yep.
Yes.
So
It's good.
it's something that
Preach.
that'll preach. Yeah. As we say sometimes, that'll preach.
True.
That's good. Man. All right. Where do we go from here? It's a great question.
How much time do we have left?
57 minutes.
50. That's what we're at right now. Man. Yeah. We could popcorn some questions at you for
Okay.
another 15-ish minutes or
Yeah.
so. Yeah, we'll
Okay.
just see where we go. 'Cause I'm very curious in your like workout life as well.
my workout life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to CrossFit Brookings.
CrossFit Brookings.
Right on.
Yes. Yeah, I started CrossFit in June of last year, and just have really just kind of, I didn't think like I would like it as much as I do. I think in the beginning, like I definitely felt intimidated. I'm like, oh gosh, you know, you see CrossFit athletes and very intense, strong, but like after joining CrossFit, like CrossFit's for everyone, you know, like you can modify it according to like your ability, where you're at in your physical journey, which I love, you know, it's adaptable. But it also like pushes me to like try things, or to maybe let's put some more weight on that barbell, you know, and like getting through something tough is really rewarding for me. So yeah, I do that usually every morning, like Monday through Friday. Go to the 6 a.m. classes, run back home, walk Brinkley, go to work.
Man,
Yeah. So
you're at work by 8.
yes,
Busy morning.
busy morning.
Busy morning.
I know. By the time I get to work, I'm like, wow,
Ready for a nap.
been
a
up
lot
for like
going on.
3 hours. Okay.
You do coffee in the morning?
Yes.
Every
Yeah.
day, pretty much?
Yes. Yeah. I usually bring coffee in the
To
morning.
to work.
Yes.
So you don't have any
Mhm.
before.
Sometimes, depending on the day, but I've been trying to be better about like drinking some electrolytes before
Coffee.
I go like work out.
Ah.
Just because like some days I just like my body just feels fatigued. So just kind of figuring out like what's going on with that. But
You've done a lot of work in that, figuring that out.
yes, that's been a journey, right, Philip?
Yeah, heck of a journey. Yep. Like electrolytes. You call out electrolytes. Magnesium,
Yeah,
potassium,
magnesium, yep,
calcium,
yep.
sodium. The biggies. So
Yep.
you're saying you'll supplement that before a workout just to make sure they're in the tank.
In the tank, yeah.
so that they can be used during the workout.
And,
Yeah.
like I just started this like maybe a week ago.
Did it make a difference?
I've actually noticed, yeah.
That's like there's a little more zip.
There's a little more zip.
Mm-hmm.
Like my endurance is just a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's something to that.
Yeah.
I don't know all of what is going on, but I'm learning. Yes. So
That's all you can do.
mhm.
Day by day learn.
Yeah.
Magnesium is one of the most highly deficient minerals or electrolytes in your body, especially under times of high stress. Your body will whip through magnesium and you will have no storage.
Really?
And then you'll make some, or you'll get it from food, or you'll get it because it's very abundant everywhere. Then you'll use it really quick and you're always in a deficient state.
Mm.
So you'll blood test normal, but that's because your body is working so hard to create it in an available form for you. That's why
Interesting.
magnesium is almost always good to
Throw it in your water.
Yep.
Yep.
supplement.
Mm-hmm.
What's that brand?
Swanson?
That's the one you use?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I order it off of Amazon. It just comes in like a powder
Right on.
form and just
Do the Natural Calm. Do you use that one anymore?
no.
No?
Not after that one night. One time I forget when, but I was in Jefferson and I had the Calm drink. You guys had mixed that up for me. And I did not sleep at all. Like I could not fall asleep. I was up the whole
Pretty sure
Opposite
that
effect.
one had magnesium and melatonin in it,
I think so. I don't know.
and it had the opposite effect.
Opposite effect.
Wow, that's
So I'm a little
upsetting.
scarred.
No Natural Calm.
No.
Otherwise,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Does it taste? Can you taste it?
Yeah.
They put some flavor in
It
it.
tastes
okay.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's not bad. It's not a bad flavor, but it just doesn't work for me.
So you've got a different brand. You've dialed it in for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Right.
good.
Yep.
Smart.
Yep.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
mhm.
What else? Coffee in the morning, electrolytes, CrossFit.
CrossFit, my breakfast is very important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you have a solid breakfast in the morning, my body just feels better and I feel like you make better choices throughout the day. Like when you have a healthy breakfast. So my breakfast usually consists of like 3 eggs. Down to a science here.
Yeah,
I'll put some
absolutely.
squash in there. Like it's egg scrambled, squash, spinach, tomatoes. If I have like some type of meat, I'll put it in there, and then some avocado. And that's like my staple every morning. I'm a very routine eater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds super good.
It's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of have the same thing throughout the week. That's just kind of what works.
Yep.
But yeah,
Sounds good.
It does sound good.
yeah, it is.
And you don't go home for lunch, or do you shoot home?
I shoot home because I will
Brinkley.
take Brinkley for
Yeah.
another walk
Mhm.
or run. And then I'll come back home around 5 and do the same thing with him. He's a golden retriever. He's 1.5 years. And he grew up, like, when I got him, I was still living with my parents on their acreage. And so he grew up in that country. Like, I can just roam, run, whatever. So it was a bit of a transition when we moved to Brookings. But he just does better with exercise. And my mom actually, was it last week, she brought in my bike. And now I've trained Brinkley to run alongside my bike.
Oh, wow.
That is so fun.
Yeah. So that has saved...
The legs.
That's improved my mood if we're talking about mental health.
yeah.
You don't have to walk your
Because
dog
3 walks a
times
day, like it was getting to be, especially when it's like -20. And,
Right.
Yeah. So I would say he's doing pretty well. He's definitely whipped me off the bike a few times.
What is that?
So like he runs alongside my bike, and if he sees a squirrel or something, he takes off. And so he's caught me off guard like 3 times. And so I go flying, and we both
So you have him
kind
like
of,
on a leash, right?
Yeah, yeah. We both kind of tumble.
Off your bike?
Yeah,
Onto the ground?
yeah.
On concrete?
Well, I land in the grass.
Okay.
Praise the Lord. But it's funny because like when that happens, of course, there's always a car that drives by.
Oh, sure.
So I'm thinking like it makes me laugh because I'm like, what do they think when they see like this woman like catapulting over her bike?
Did they ever pull over and they're like, "Are you
No.
okay?"
Just
I
keep
pop right back.
There you go. You're like, "I'm fine."
Fine. So, but it's been a lifesaver. Besides all of that,
Nice.
yeah,
Except for falling off the
Except
bike.
for
The
falling
bike's
off
been
the
great.
bike. Yeah.
bike's been great.
I'll have to try that with Nala, our dog.
Oh,
That little Spitfire though might there could be
She
more
might
bodily
just
harm.
drag you
Yeah.
to
I
the
remember.
river.
Yeah,
She's strong.
remember when I took her for a run when Eleanor was born, and like she made me like get a I don't know what mile minute did I get?
It was like
Like a
7:30.
7:30,
Under 7.
and I have
Yeah.
never ran that fast.
She's like pulling you
But
along.
she just like pulls
Yeah.
you, and you just like
She really does.
keep going.
Yeah,
So thanks, Nala.
Fastest mile ever.
truly.
Hasn't happened
Nice.
again, but
She's always available for a run if you
All
want
right.
to start your running career. Isaac
Yeah.
or
Don't
Lindsay.
look at
I
me.
just
am
I just
will
ran
never
for the
be a
first time.
runner.
I just ran for the first time. There's outside. There's one stop sign. If you go down to Daubendick, there's a stop sign at the end of the road, and you come back up the hill, which is a
Ugh.
burner. That last quarter mile is just
It
all
is. Yep,
uphill.
it's rough.
Oh, it's like exactly a mile, and that's
yeah, you gotta dig deep.
fun. Isaac says fun. Yeah,
Not fun.
not fun. Anyway,
Anyway,
man, do you I'm very also curious about just like your money habits, which you don't you don't have to share too many details, but it's like paycheck comes in. The only thing sure in life is death and taxes, right?
yeah,
So you got to save. That's not true. We know
Yep.
other things that are
There are.
other sureties in life,
There's
but
other things.
like
But that's the saying.
that's the saying. Some money goes to taxes. What do you do with the rest?
Some goes into savings, and then I'm very grateful to have a brother who's very financially minded, and because that's not an area that is, it's not a strong suit of mine. And so we're in the process, but of setting up an investment to put some money towards that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
So it's
savings,
investment,
yeah.
right? And then you pay taxes out of that savings, or do you have to pay taxes
Yeah.
quarterly, or
Yeah.
your
Out of the
estimates? Yeah,
savings, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I have a little tax savings account too.
That's separate from your
I
savings?
do have it separate.
Oh, that's
yeah.
a good idea.
Just so I know.
Yeah.
And I
like that
also,
idea.
yeah, biggest pet peeve. This is just me. This isn't everyone, but it's like when my savings account, I don't want that number to ever go down. So I try not to ever take money out of that. So I have a separate savings account set up where I have my tax money, so that one savings number never has to go like this. It just has to go like this.
Yep.
For my mental health, apparently, I think that's good. What do you do?
Like with savings?
Yeah, or just
I put stuff where I want it to go. I don't keep a lot in accounts. Right now I do, because we've got like the wedding coming up, and I know there's going to be expenses with that, but once that's over, I mean, it's all going to go to where it needs to be.
that's right. Yeah, for sure. Roth IRA.
Yeah.
We're on that Roth IRA train.
Nice.
I like that idea though, to have separate accounts for things, especially with savings, because it all just mine all just like clumps together. And I love to travel, so it'd be nice to like have a separate.
Like a travel savings account. Yeah.
Which is, I have that. Yeah,
Do you?
the fun account.
Fun account.
Yep.
Where are you going next?
We don't really have a trip planned.
Okay.
No, we just
Hawaii?
that's on the list. The next biggie
The next
will be that one.
a more relaxing vacation
Yeah.
than England.
Our
Philip?
trip to England, man. We took Bridget, Brooke, and I. We went to England. Yes, we started in London, and then we rented a car. Which Audis are just like a dime a dozen over there. So that's what we rented. Was an Audi A5. Sweet, loved it. Loved every second of it. My license was expired, so I couldn't really drive it. Which we don't need to
Yeah, we don't
go
need to
about
talk
that.
about that.
We
It's
put
all-
900 miles on that car though,
Oh, wow.
as we traveled the countryside.
Wow.
Saw a lot of things,
That'd
but
be
we
cool.
hustled.
Yeah.
You
Every
guys
day.
are probably
Yeah.
super tired by the time trip was over.
Different bed every night.
Yep.
Wow.
Different Airbnb.
She was the Airbnb queen. She would find us a spot on the road.
Nice.
This place looks
Nice.
good. Let's book it. And then, oh man, we got back to London and we were
Just like walking around in a daze.
tuckered.
Like, wow,
spent-
what just happened?
Our last 2 nights, we really didn't do anything.
No.
I think we watched a movie in our Airbnb and just
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it was like, for me, like that was so fun. That was such a fun experience to
Yeah.
like share with you guys. Like,
It was
I'll always remember it.
Yeah. for sure.
Next time, if we do it again, it can be more relaxing, Philip.
That's right.
We can plan a little bit more.
Yeah. That's where, our plan to go to Colorado,
Yeah.
climb a little 14er.
Oh,
Just hustling.
Hustling, like drive out Thursday, acclimate for a day,
Yep.
which hopefully is enough. climb a 14er in the morning
Oh
on
my goodness.
Saturday, climb down, get a steak, drive home.
Yep.
Oh
But
my
that-
goodness.
That's our plan right now.
That's
Which
Why would
current
you?
plan.
That'll
Yeah.
be an
You
experience.
could
Something.
fly and save yourself like 20 hours.
Yeah, maybe. Could do that.
we could do that. It is an option. Was there a reason we were planning on driving?
I don't know if it
No.
was. I
Okay.
don't think so.
I
Right
feel
on.
like that's the normal Iowa thing to do. Oh, we'll just drive.
I mean, it's not like that
only
far.
12 hours.
Yeah. The plan could change.
The plan could
Okay.
change. Yeah.
Still room.
Still room
As
for
someone
that.
who drove to Colorado overnight back in October, I recommend flying.
Yeah.
Noted.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I have two.
2
Mm-hmm.
is one of them. Pride and Prejudice.
Yes.
Yes. The other one, I couldn't. Is
You've
the other
Got
one?
Mail.
You've got okay.
You almost
Mail.
had
I
it.
knew it
That
I
movie
should've-
is super cute.
Yeah.
because your dog's name is,
Brinkley.
and Tom Hanks' dog's name is.
Brinkley.
That's right. That's where that comes from. It's cute, super cute.
It's a great movie.
Yep.
They don't make movies like that anymore.
They don't.
No.
They just don't. You seen it?
No.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's okay. you're not to
You
watch
should.
that.
You should see it.
You
should watch it.
It's a classic.
All
You and
right.
Taylor. I feel like. I don't know if Taylor is into
I don't know.
that type of movie. You've seen it? You've Got Mail?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a classic Bridget and Brooke movie right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sure is.
So good. Most favorite book? Is there one or series of books or an author or?
We read a ton, Bridget and I,
Yeah.
growing up, like
Yeah.
a ton.
Yeah.
It was usually like Christian-based authors, and it was usually like a romantic story set in the 1800s.
A timepiece.
So the prairie, homestead life, throw some romance in there.
Oh yeah,
We were,
that was it.
So like
Good.
now, like I've definitely like, oh, now that I'm out of school, like I can read in my free time,
Right.
you know? But it hasn't like happened as much as I would like it to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
You know?
Yeah. One thing that you've done in your post career, or like the coolest thing you've done since you've graduated, or the coolest thing you've done ever in your life,
Oh,
besides a trip to London with your
besides that?
brother-in-law? Yeah.
Okay. I've taken a few hiking trips with my friends. And
Did you-
like that's
Appalachian
fun.
Trail?
No.
No.
I went to Porcupine Mountains in Michigan with a friend, and we like actually like full on backpacking like, for 3 days, like tent, food, the whole thing. And that was a really good experience. It rained the last day, like poured
Oh my.
rain like the whole time.
Wow.
And then my friend and I hiked in Colorado, and that was fun. Like it's just like it's so good to be out in nature and see God's creation. Like it's just it's breathtaking. And like so trips like that, like I absolutely love. I had a trip planned last year to go to Washington to go to some of the national parks with a few friends, but due to COVID and everything, had to postpone that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I would love to take
It's
more
big.
trips like that in the future.
There's an adventurer in
Oh,
you.
there is.
Yeah.
Like it's just like I was telling Bridget, I'm like, I just have like this really strong desire to travel. But like every country that I look into, I'm like, oh, you have to like quarantine for 2 weeks, and that doesn't really work with like taking vacation days from work.
Right.
And yeah, I'd love to go like move. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Live there for a few weeks. Yeah,
Right.
fine.
Just moving to Thailand for a month, not a big deal.
Not the best time to be a world traveler.
No, yeah. So figuring out where I can go in the States. But
It's good.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts? Anything from you guys?
I think it's been great.
It has been
Yeah.
great.
thanks for having me, guys.
Very spontaneous, very spur of the moment.
Yes.
Thank you. You just brought a ton of value
Yeah.
in a conversation, a type of conversation we have not had yet. So thank you.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
Good number 10 right here.
Number 10.
Ooh, congrats.
10.
That's great.
Yeah. Come back
10
with us.
episodes.
10 episodes.
Okay.
Yep. Sometime, would you?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. It's good. Boom. We're unfiltered. Episode 10. He's Isaac.
He's Philip.
This was Brooke Tanya. Adios.
See you next time.
See you next time. job.
Oh man,
Great.
that was fun.